Asian hornets threaten honeybees, New York City Council gets bedbugs, and GMO mosquitoes? All on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business. Hey, welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. This is Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek. Hey, happy Monday to you all. Hope you guys had a wonderful week, that you are rejuvenated, excited about getting on with what's going on in your world in the pest control business. And whether you are an employee, whether you are an operator, whether you're a manager, or you're in sales, this podcast is for you. We discuss everything that goes on in the industry on a weekly basis, putting you up to date with the latest news that's affecting your world. And I wanted to give some special shout outs to a couple of people that have been listening to the podcast and have signed up with us on Twitter. And we're looking at our LinkedIn, man. We're getting a lot of activity on LinkedIn, and I had ignored LinkedIn for a while. And a lot of people do because it's traditionally not much of a social media. It's more of a professional environment. But we're getting some really good people following us. And we thought it would be worth to, acknowledge them and thank them for that. And I really, really do appreciate you following us, tweeting, sharing our stuff, and listening to this podcast. So thank you. I want to thank Entero Services at Entero AZ, their pest, turf, weeds, and mosquito. And we've got a link to their Twitter. So, give them some love. We're going to be putting people's links up there so you can share their stuff, look at what they're doing, and, be part of a community. And also, Robert Gregorio, he's the director of canine operations at Round the Clock Pest Control. He formerly worked at Isotech Pest Management. If you don't know who Isotech is, those are the guys that produce the Verminators on the Discovery Channel. So he's following us on LinkedIn. And hey, man, congratulations on your new role at Round the Clock Pest Control. And I guess, you're hunting down bed bugs with your dog. I saw a picture of you with a dog, and I think that is the coolest thing in the world. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing and liking our stuff. Really, really, really do appreciate it. If you want to join the conversation, you can do so. Hey, like us on social media. Send us an email, questions@pestgeekpodcast.com, or simply join the conversation by leaving us a voicemail recording at 707-395-7378. That phone number is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can leave a recorded message anytime. I look forward to hearing from you. So thank you. In the tech tip, I got a great product here that I was looking at over the weekend. It's from the people that make the bird barrier products, but this one is called Pest Barrier. And Pest Barrier, the border control product, is a thin paperback glue board that comes in a 60-foot roll, easy to carry, simple to deploy, and can fence off crawling insects or mice quickly and easily. Border control can be cut to custom fit any situation. So if you've got a place where you need to put a small little glue board, or you need to put this protective around a special order or a pallet of special product that cannot be contaminated, you can make this incredible fence with this product. I thought it was just amazing. So check it out. I got an actual video on the site too for the product demonstration. There's a video on our site for it. So take a look at that and check it out. And SEO. Hey guys, remember, content is still king. You can learn all the techniques, but content, writing good content. And not only good content, but everything still proves that long content ranks better on Google. 1,500 to 2,000 words. Even in this age where we say people have short attention spans, will rank better. Don't believe the hype that people won't read your material. Write it anyway. if you can get above 2,000, that's much better. We've got some articles that we're writing now that are really, we wanted to rank real well. And we're pushing that, writing, to get that product to rank. So remember, on the SEO, content is king. Don't neglect your content. In the book of the week, The Happiness Advantage, the 7 principles of positive psychology that fuel success and performance at work by Sean Acor. This is a phenomenon. I've been doing a lot of research on positive psychology for a couple of years now, and you'll be shocked to find out the things that are now being revealed. This is a phenomenal book. If you want to know what it takes for you to be happy, no matter where you're at, and help your employees to be happy, help your colleagues to be happy, check out this book. I think it is a phenomenal book. I have an audio book form, but you can get the paperback version if you choose. I think it's a phenomenal book. In U.S. pest alerts, well, we've got more emerald ash borer. The list, guys, is growing exponentially. If you know anybody who has ash trees on their property, notice Harrison County in Texas. It's been expanded to that. And also Cass, Dodge, Douglas, Sarpy, and Washington counties in Nebraska have now got emerald ash borer warnings. I got a link so you can get all the cities. The emerald ash borer is wreaking havoc, and that way, if you can't do anything about the forest in the public areas, but you can with companies and commercial properties and people who have lots of land that have these trees on them, you can help them manage that situation. Also, citrus canker. Why is this important? Well, because it's now St. Bernard Parish and portions of Jefferson, and I think it's Plaquemines, St. Charles, and Lafourche parishes in Louisiana, Cameron County, in Texas also have citrus canker warnings. And this affects everything from grapefruit trees, limes, lemons, anything that is citrus, the citrus canker affects. And the problem that we have, and the reason why this is so important, is that limited movement of citrus plants and plant material is essential. Landscapers that do work with these trees, because somebody has them in their yard and they pruned them and it got the canker and they're moving it around the city, parts are falling off and this disease is spreading. So you need to make sure that if you're a landscaper or you're doing ornamentals and your customers have citrus trees, that none of that material gets moved around if you're in those counties where there's warnings. There's actually a complete list. I got a link to them where you can find out if there's a citrus canker in all the cities that the quarantines are in effect. These are quarantines. You cannot move fruit around that was picked from a tree in those quarantine areas. So vital, guys, that you know this. In the EU, the new invasive Asian hornet, Vespa velutina, has been identified for the first time in Alderney and also of the Channel Islands, posing a major threat to honeybee health. Alderney is the most northern of the Channel Islands, and due to the locality of this finding, the UK is alerted to a potential increased risk of Vespa velutini, or the Asian hornet, reaching its shores. Now, it already invaded France, and it's already in France, and then moving into England across the channel from France is not. It looks like it's possible. So these wasps really attack honeybee and honeybee farms and honeybee production. So guys, keep an eye out, get informed. I've got a couple of links on there so that you can stay informed if you're in Europe and in the UK. Just keep track of this. There's a great resource on non-native species where you can get information on hornet, Asian hornet resources, a poster. There's a risk assessment for the Asian hornet, an identification sheet, information sheet so you can know what it looks like, and a response plan. for the Asian hornet. So very serious. These guys are taking this. This is a very serious situation. As a PMP, a pest control professional, you owe it to yourself to get this information and stay ahead of the curve of what's going to happen. In New York, the city council, I shouldn't be laughing. This is not, this is a serious matter. City council building at 250 Broadway in Lower Manhattan, is the latest municipal building infested with bed bugs. And they called in a crew, and definitely they got bed bugs in council. So it's a serious problem, guys, that people are not taking serious. I find that every time I talk to a customer on the phone about bed bugs, they have no clue of how serious this problem is. I had a lady call me over the weekend that she has bought a bedroom set from a guy that had bed bugs, but he threw away the mattress and kept in storage. Now, this is climate controlled storage. Well, we all know that bed bug can live there for up to a year without a bite. I mean, it's happened. So how do you know that you don't have live bed bugs and you're bringing it in? She asked me, what should I do? I said, don't bring that in. If you do, find a company that can do a heat treatment and treat all that at one time in a truck before you bring it in. And people have no clue. She was shocked about how the seriousness of the problem is. People think they're going to control it with a spray. Can't you just spray the furniture with something and think that that's going to get control? So it's a very serious. You owe it to yourself to really, 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 really get informed on bed bugs and how serious the problem is. That you have no idea how many rooms and apartments I come across that people have the bed bug. And they have a spray company coming in spraying every month or every 2 months, and they still have bed bugs, and they think that's going to get rid of it. No, it's not. It's a more serious problem than you think. There's a new GMO mosquito that's being tried. It's been done already in 2 major areas. There's an article called The Suppression of Field Population of Aedes aegypti in Brazil by Sustained Release of Transgenic Male Mosquitoes. Okay? Sounds weird, but it's actually working. They're using what is known as self-limiting genetic technology, or SIT, which is showing much promise in this method. Sustained release of the OX513A aegypti male led to 80% suppression of target wild Aedes aegypti population in the Cayman Islands in 2010. And now, in the town of Juazeiro, Bahia, Brazil, this study spanned over a year and reduced the local aegypti population 95%, between 92.2 and 97.5, a reduction with this mosquito. Guys, I'm telling you, biology is what's going to happen in the next, in the next pest control movement. It's biological. It's not chemical. And they're proving this. Brazil was found to have the highest number of cases and economic burden, more recently estimated 16 million total infections annually of dengue. So it's not the Zika virus that's a big problem around the world. That's what's in the news. But the reality is that dengue, anywhere between 50 and 300 million people per year are infected by dengue. And these new technologies are making it, with the removal of DDT, to control mosquitoes in a lot of countries, that's exploded. And that's what's, fueling it. So they need a new technology other than vector spraying to control area-wide outbreak of malaria, and dengue, which is the big problem. Now, I have a very cool link. If you want to know on a weekly basis how many people have been infected around the world, there's a place called healthmap.org, and it tells you right now, as of last week, 817 vector-borne alerts have been found around the world. Zika virus, 223, but dengue, 393. West Nile virus, 93. Eastern equine encephalitis, 27. Japanese encephalitis 13, yellow fever 6, Western equine encephalitis 2, and then you look at plague and malaria, only 5 people have been infected with malaria. Tick-borne diseases and Lyme disease. This is all on the map. It shows you on a weekly basis where in the world this is happening. And these underdeveloped countries are the most susceptible. The problem is we live in this country, and anything like this, everything becomes, an epidemic, a pandemic. But these people are living with this on a daily basis. This is not something that all of a sudden is happening. It's just that we don't understand it. But the CDC on July 13th of 2016 released the Zika map. So now you can keep track of where Zika is being transmitted and found and was reported. Here's the shocking part. The biggest cases in the United States are not in the continental United States. Almost more than half of all the Zika cases that have been reported mostly have been in Puerto Rico. So you can look at this map. How many are in the continental U.S. because of travel? 13. Laboratory acquired, only 1 in the laboratory. Sexually transmitted, 14. But most of these were, like I said, in Puerto Rico. So it's shocking what's happening in Puerto Rico right now with the Zika virus and how many people are being infected over there. Check out also the CDC Zika, the geo-tracking on this. It's available on the website. There's a link to it. And on a lighter side, this is really cool news because Hispanics are being acknowledged at the 2016 GIE Expo. This is the Green Industry and Equipment Expo. This is for the landscape industry. It does, L&O is in there. But for the first time, the National Hispanic Landscape Alliance, the NHLA, expanded its seminar offerings to the expo. There's going to be a full from the 19th through the 21st. This is in Louisville, Kentucky, at the Louisville Expo Center in Kentucky. And there's a full list of seminar that's available for Hispanics. It's done completely in Spanish to train the industry. And I think this is phenomenal. For the longest time, I've been complaining about the lack of information, lack of education that there is for landscapers. And the majority of them, I would say in where I am in Miami-Dade, I don't know where it is where you are, but in Miami-Dade County, it's an overwhelming 90% of the landscapers you find are Hispanics. And they have no clue, most of them, what they're doing with plants. They really don't. I try to educate as many people as I can. It almost becomes sometimes overwhelming. They don't go to the classes that are available by the Extension Service. So I think this move by the NHLA, the National Hispanic Landscape Alliance, is vital. And I wish that more education was available down here, that most people will be willing to go get trained. But the reality is that most landscapers start out by just going to their local store and buying a bunch of equipment, throwing it in the back of their pickup truck, and the next day they're in business and they don't know what they're doing with plants. And a lot of the work that I see in landscapes, they're mutilating trees, mutilating plants, transmitting diseases and not knowing it to plants. I think the industry needs to rise up, not only in the pest control, but in the landscape industry, because most of the problems that I find in the landscape are not due to natural problem with insects, but most of it is to bad cultural practice and bad horticultural practices. So I applaud you guys for this. This is an awesome news. I'm really, really excited about that. I wanted to talk to you. I got an email from a listener of the podcast. And wow, this email just floored me. It really encouraged me. I'm excited for what we are doing, because really this email embodies what this podcast is really about. It's not about, everybody doesn't want to be a multi-million-dollar pest control company. Not everybody out there wants to have 10 routes. It's not about that. It's not about the money. It's about bringing change to the industry and proving that the methods that we employ, that we teach on, what we are doing, is impacting people and changing their lives. I want to read this to you. This is from Richard. And he says, I would like to thank you for the podcast. I started listening very early in the beginning. I come from a mid-sized company that does a great service for the community, but still stuck a little in the past. We still spray baseboards for the majority of our accounts. Since listening to your podcast, I've instituted more of a bait, education, and IPM approach. We keep track of our retreats and reschedules every day, and I have one of the lowest, averaging 2 maybe a month. It has helped so much that I just got a $2 raise for my efforts. I've since been moving towards going into business for myself. I would like to thank you for helping me learn and open my eyes to our industry. Thanks again. This is a humbling email because it's not about building this great company. This man who is a technician, he doesn't own the company, decided to not only listen to what I had to say, but to look into it, verify it, and then implement it and put it into action. That is the secret to getting this done. It's believing and then putting it into action and seeing it actually work. And not only has it helped him, he's raised the entire level of his company, and he ended up getting a $2 raise. I don't know how much he makes, but a $2 raise in this economy is unheard of for most people. He must have had made a serious contribution to that bottom line to get that. When you only are getting 2 callbacks a month on your route, your production goes through the roof. Your stress level is reduced. You're a much happier person, and everyone around you is much happier. And that's what it's about. I talk to so many people that are frustrated with the amount of callbacks they get on a daily basis, and they're overwhelmed. And yes, in the beginning, integrated pest management is very difficult to learn. It requires a lot of training. It requires a paradigm shift in thinking away from that B&G. This is why we do what we do. And I want to thank you, Richard, for writing this. And I want to thank you for encouraging me that what we're doing is really making a difference. Because we see the numbers. We look at the numbers, and the numbers are going up. And we're getting more listeners, and we're getting more activity. But we don't know if it's making an impact. We just know that we're getting more people to listen. And thank you. And the reason that I'm doing this podcast and the reason our company exists is to provide the highest quality service that we can provide and with the lowest toxicity that we can provide it. It comes down to we are a pest control company. We're not a chemical company. We're not in the chemical business. And you got to understand if you're a pest control professional, that you're not in the chemical business. That's the manufacturing company's job. You're in the control business, and you have to learn to integrate. Get your toolbox, get your menu out of services that you provide and how you're going to provide the finest control. The reason I got to this point in doing what we do is one day I asked myself a very serious question. I imagined a scenario where I got a call from a hospital, and I thought about what is the most complex place I could do pest control. And if I went into a hospital and I got into a surgical room, could I control the pest in that room without contaminating that environment? Could I do it? And then I looked at everything I was doing and I said, no, it's impossible. You see, I started taking courses on commercial and commercial IPM, commercial integrated pest management, and really high level courses. And things that I said, what is the most facility? I mean, if I went into a biological research facility, could I solve this problem? I got challenged by a man who is a legend in this industry, who I highly look up to, Austin Frischman, in one of his conferences, because of the things. And I see the people around him mocking him with their heads shaking. This guy's nuts. And I said, you know, this guy has more credentials than I will ever achieve in my lifetime. And I should listen. And I'm always open-minded to listen to people who are more highly educated, who have more experience, who've been doing this longer than I have, to listen to what they have to say, observe, and then see if it's doable. I owe it to myself. So I asked myself that question. I said, if I was called into that environment, would I be able to control that problem without a chemical? And the answer was no. And at that point, that's what set off my paradigm shift in thinking and what was possible to do, because somebody's doing it. Somebody knows how to do it. They're actually getting it done. And then I said, imagine if I could bring that level of quality, service, and control to the commercial and residential market down here, to where everybody lives, to the common person. That was my challenge that I challenged myself. See, I read a book once that messed me up that you should read. It's called The Magic of Thinking Big. That book messed me up because I don't know how to not think big. And it's not about the money. It's not about how big I make my company. It's not how much money I make. It's about what is possible if you can dream it. All things are possible if you believe. And I challenged myself and says, I want to be the best. I've always wanted to be the best at everything I did. I didn't want to get by, and I don't want to be mediocre. I don't want to be lukewarm. It just makes everybody gag and throw up to be lukewarm. I wanted to be excellent. So I challenged myself. You're not talking to a brilliant person here. I don't have a PhD. But anybody can do this. It's not that hard. It requires a change in your thinking. So I set out to figure out what these guys were doing in these facilities. And I interviewed people that were there, and I talked to people that worked for those kind of companies in those environments. And there's a big difference between being in that environment and being even in the same company with these large national companies that provide these high-level service with these high-level technicians in these facilities. And the person that is running a residential route, I says, why can't we bring that kind of quality and service to the residential? And we did. It didn't happen overnight. It took me 6 years, 7 years of research and development to come up with our protocols, where now we only use 10 products in a home, none of which, by the way, are a pyrethroid. None. We have inside, we haven't used a pyrethroid. We don't use pyrethroids in there. It can't be done. Yes, it can. I prove it every day. I go to conferences. I tell people, they nod their head. Can't be done. Well, I always challenge them and saying, have you tried it? And the reality is, no, they haven't. They just said in their mind that it can't be done. And it's happening all around us. There are people who are actually doing this. I'm not the only one. I'm just the one with the microphone telling you about it. There are excellent people doing this stuff all around me. And to raise the level of that mentality. So I'm setting new goals for myself. I'm setting new goals for my company. Doing this in the inner city where people say it can't be done. We're figuring out ways that it can be done, that we can bring the price and make it affordable for people to do this in the inner city and compete with the guy that spray, pray, and never controls the problem and charges $20 a month to do it. That we can do it. We're working together with doctors, people that have done this in foreign countries. And they've done it. And we're figuring out how to get it done here. to take this podcast to the next level in reaching the mainstream, educating the public about real pest control, that there is something more excellent out there than just spray. This is where we're going. Because if you want to be part of a group of people that elevate, that are more excellent, then you can join. This is what this podcast is for. For the guy who's thrown in the towel, maybe there's hope for you. But I'm going to show you why we're doing this and where the industry is going and what you need to know. I'm getting confirmation from conversations that I'm having with people inside the industry, inside the manufacturing industry, inside the chemical industry, what we're being told and why this is so vital that you raise up, you bring your A game, you start studying and learning of what is possible. Keep your eye on San Francisco. Keep your eye on San Francisco. They're leading the way in this fight and the industry is going to fight it tooth and nail because there's a lot of people who don't want it, who don't want the pesticide reduction, who don't want to they're afraid if you get rid of my pyrethroid, what am I going to do to control pests? You can't use a pyrethroid nilly-willy in an organic facility and yet they control pests. You can't just use it nilly-willy in a hospital yet they control pests. It can be done. The mainstream customer is uneducated. And why the organization that's supposed to represent us isn't stepping up and the mainstream customer isn't being educated. That's where we're going. That's the goals I've set for this. To take what we know and tell the world what we're doing as professionals, as real professionals. There's plenty of you out there who are real professionals in this business. And you know it, and you're the best in what you do in your city, in your company. You're doing it. But that needs to get out. That there's a different level of service that is available besides what you've been used to for the last 50 years. Since the mid-50s. Look at San Francisco Tier 3 products. When I looked at this list, I said, my goodness, we're already there as a company. We're there. We're positioned as a company to meet this. If we walked into San Francisco right now, we would be able to comply with all of this and do it. Mind you, I know that there's different pests all around the world. There are different pest problems that are a little bit different than what we've done here in South Florida. I understand that. But if you look at the list, this is where it's going. These are the products, the Tier 3 products. That's what they're pushing. sfenvironment.org. For San Francisco. If you're there, you know that what I'm telling you is true. Go to lead user. I got links to all this, by the way. San Francisco greenbusiness.org and the U.S. Green Building Council. See, these are the customers we're going after. We're going after the lead buildings, the green facilities, those who are wanting a higher level of service. But we're also having to take it down to the level that make it accessible to the common person. And that's what we're working on now. For a decade, I've sold to the top 1% of the population. We need to bring it now to 13% of the population in order to reach them with this. There are a couple of companies that are already doing it. I'm not the only one. I know that. But we're going to rise up and raise the level, raise the standards for the industry. That's what we're all about. Check out the links. Check out what we've been doing. Check out where the industry, if you want to know where the industry is going, follow San Francisco. They're already doing what most people in Europe have been doing or doing, what most people in Canada have to do. I'm telling you guys, that's coming. But it's possible. It's not like the attitude that most people have is if you take away all of our products, we won't be able to do this. And I'm telling you, there are people doing it. I'm going to bring on a guest that I've been talking to who's been in the business for 40 years, who has way more experience than I ever have and has shown that it can be done. It can be done, guys. There's a testimony here written to me that it can be done. You can do it better. You can get better control than what you've been doing. You can have less stress, enjoy your business more, have less callbacks, have more happy customers. It's all possible. I thank you for listening to this podcast, and I hope that this podcast continues to inspire you. It continues to educate you on what's going on in the industry. It continues to raise your level of standards in the industry, and I greatly thank you for listening. I will see you next time, folks. Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.